Welcome back to another tutorial. If you haven't been here before, then my name is Sharon and I have a YouTube channel full of exciting tutorials. We're currently running the Christmas flower arrangement series. We've definitely got one arrangement to go and then one for the new year, and we're finished for 2023. I'm going to look today at an arrangement that would be suitable for the centre of a round table, or it would be perfect as a gift for somebody, or you could place it on a coffee table, and it would be ideal as a smaller arrangement if your budget for flowers is not too great. This is a great one for using supermarket mixed bunches. You just really need to buy 2 or 3 bunches that are the same so that you can get that grouped effect that I'm going to talk you through in today's video. Now I'm going to be using some florist flowers. Some of them you might have seen before, some of them might be new to you, and my container is this silver tin, so that possibly will give you an indication of today's flower combination. I do quite often do gold and silver or more natural colours, but today I'm going with silver and red, and it's going to match my container beautifully. Now this container here, if I just hold the top, it's about a hand span in width, about the same in height, and I believe this came from a supermarket and it would have had a conifer or an orchid sitting in it. So it's something that you can all get hold of if you haven't got a silver one, a flower pot or something Christmassy that you might have in the house. If you don't have anything like this, you could even do it flat on a saucer. You just won't get the same effect as the design that's raised up off the table. Now my mechanics for today is floral foam, and this is the green Oasis foam. And I know that technically this is a single-use plastic, and in the floristry world, this is still used a tremendous amount. And one of my sort of bugbears with the current trend for not using floral foam is that our flowers have been imported from all the way around the world. So for example, what I have here today, I've got flowers from Thailand, South America, I've got some things from Australia, I've got Costa Rica, where a lot of our foliage comes from. This time of year, lots of foliage like our pines are coming in from Ireland. And I often think we need to look at the bigger picture, not just the end product with the floral foam. You will find lots of videos on the channel where I use Agrawhirl or I use the equivalent made by the company Oasis, and you'll find lots of videos where I've used wire netting instead. So you have the choice whether to choose something sustainable or something that's a single-use plastic. Be very careful with a lot of the well-known brands that sell floral foam as biodegradable, because if you read the small print, it's not biodegradable at all, and it's just almost, in my opinion, allegedly, a little bit of a marketing gimmick. So be very careful what you're reading. The Agrawhirl, which is deemed as a much better product to put in the garden, so it will break down on the compost heap, has a really harsh process, which is really damaging for the environment when it's produced. So you gain at the end, but the method to create it is not particularly environmentally friendly. And you do really have to read the small print and investigate all the different options out there. As a commercial florist that does this on a regular basis, if we're doing weddings, we do try to use more sustainable options, and we use a lot of locally grown flowers. But for lots of big work and designer work, there still is not an alternative for us to use. So having said that, we're looking at floral foam today, and I've cut a full block so that I've got a third on the bottom and then I've got half of a third on the top. I want to give myself some height so that I can create a very roundy, moundy dome sort of shape design. This is a good one, as I've mentioned, if you want to just pick up a couple of identical mixed bunches and you don't have access to a lot of greenery. And what I am going to do in this one is use quite a lot of silver sprayed materials to get that really grouped effect. So if you've got Christmas decorations, baubles, stars, cones, cinnamon sticks, that type of thing, they're going to work really well to create really dominant clusters in the arrangement. Okay, enough of talking, let's get started. I have a few pieces of greenery already cut on my side, and I've also got a candle to put in the minute. And I'm looking really just to use the height of my container as a rough gauge. You can go bigger if you prefer, you can go smaller, but that normally makes a fairly well proportioned design. And I've got several different bits of pine, Nordman pine and blue spruce. I'm just going to work my way around the outside so that I'm giving myself almost like a frill or a collar as low down in my container as I possibly can, just to create an outline. I'm not this time going to bring any foliage up across the top until right at the very end, but what I'm aiming to do is to create that circular effect. And I think sometimes if you've been making door wreaths and you've got lots of small bits of greenery left over, then this is quite a good one to do. It's a design that maybe takes a little bit more skill to construct, but you need a bit of patience, and we'll get there in the end. So I've gone round the outside. My foliage is fairly similar in length, doesn't have to be perfect, and that's going to give me a round shape. And I'm just going to remember to turn that so that that metal seam of the vase is at the back. Now this is an all-round arrangement. You're going to be able to see it from all directions, but there probably is, if it's going on a coffee table, there is probably going to be an area that's more visible. In the middle is going to be my candle, and what I've done here is I've used German pins and I've inserted the pointed end of the German pin into the candle so that holds it into position. And there are lots of different ways you can do that. If you've learned a different method, that's okay. You can use kebab sticks and some oasis tape as well. And that is really all I'm going to do with the greenery. This has given me my height, and I'm going to do this really compact dome sort of shaped arrangement with different flowers and lots of different accessories. And I'm going to start by grouping them together. Now I have some Gerbera. These are lovely red Gerbera. You might have seen these in another arrangement. I can't quite remember now. I've done so many things since the last filming. But this one has a beautiful black centre to it. And this is going to be so lovely in this arrangement. Remember, if it's a soft stemmed flower, you need to cut it straight across and not at an angle. And what I'm going to do is group, I've got 5 I think, I'm going to group them together. Now I haven't intentionally bought a specific quantity of flowers. I'm just using really what I've got here in the studio. If you are going to buy flowers from a florist shop, you need to buy things that are in groups so that you can group them together, or you can put them in as individual stems. But what I'm going to do is group them in different parts of the arrangement, so we get that colour and that texture in different parts of the arrangement. And I'm hoping that at the end it's going to be fairly dome shaped. It's going to be quite low alongside that candle because I want the candle to be quite dominant. Remember, if you're lighting the candle, don't get your flowers too close because it then becomes a fire hazard. I've also got some Skimmier japonica, which is a really beautifully seasoned greenery. Not quite sure whether we're going to call it a flower. I'm going to do the same method, group it really close together and spread that colour and that texture throughout. Now if you're lucky enough to have a garden and you've got a choice of foliages, then this is a really good one for you. You could continue this pattern with just using foliages from the garden. Holly would work really well, some hebe, and you can always spray paint it if you feel the need. Just going to keep going all the way around. So I'm clustering everything really close together so that we have some visual impact from the different flower types. And I'm trying not to make it symmetrical, so it's not balanced on both sides, as in I have one Gerbera this side and one Gerbera this side. It's a clustered and grouped design. And what I'm going to do is just keep going in that sort of manner. Now my Gerberas have been conditioned really well, so I don't need to support wire them. If you needed to wire them, just run a wire down the outside. Next I'm going in with these fabulous roses. Now this is a florist grade, it's a Naomi, red Naomi, but a couple of bunches from the supermarket will work just as well. And I'm going to keep going, spreading out that colour really close together with my flowers so that we get that lovely dominant impact. And I think this one is going to come up more up to the top here. Now next I've got the same red rose, but what I've done with the red rose this time is I've given it a light dusting. Oh, I thought I picked up the wrong one then. I've given it a light dusting with the silver spray paint, and you'll see the silver spray paint used quite a lot in today's design. So it gives me a nice connection between the container and the arrangement itself. This is Oasis spray paint. I'll link it in the description box, so if you want to get it from Amazon, it'll be easy for you to find, but you can generally pick it up in most hobby shops. And this one is super silver, so it's the really shiny super silver. Couple of light dustings, let it dry, and then another couple of coats, and then you know you're all ready to go. Right, so I'm going to keep going with the red rose, and what I don't want to do is mix the flowers in amongst the groups that I've already placed. They should be separate groups of each individual flower, whether it's a single flower or whether it's a group of 2 or 3 together. Depends really on what your budget is and how many flowers you can get. What I think is really good with this one is, you know, when you buy those mixed bunches and they quite often have flowers, 3 gerbera, 3 roses, then they are ideal for this. And by adding in some Christmas decorations, you're going to have a really gorgeous design, whether you want to give it to somebody as a gift or whether you're going to use it on the table for Christmas. Now you could keep going with more large flowers, and if you've been on any courses with me, you probably already know I run lots of online courses. They're all accessible from the website, and I'll link those in the description box as well. It will explain to you the rules and the theory sort of behind flower arranging and floral design. And now what I'm going to do is add in some Christmas accessories. So silver baubles first. What I was just going to mention is that everything I've used in here is what we would refer to as a single round shaped flower. We don't have anything like spray roses, spray carnations, because they don't tend to give that visual impact that you get from a big round flower. And I've got 3 baubles. You could add more. They could be different colours, they could be sparkly, but I'm going to try now and even out that colour so that wherever you're looking at this arrangement from, you will see one of those silver baubles. Now I'm going to go in with some of the lotus seed heads. Again, I've spray painted them so that we've got a link with the silvers in the arrangement. And rather than dot them around, because I've got a few of these, I'm going to place them in those clustered groups together. So one of my favourite ways of arranging. So we're going to keep going, adding in all of the larger materials. Next is going to be my cones. These have been wired onto a 71 gauge florist wire. And these are going to sit beautifully in amongst all my greenery. I'm going to place them in groups again so they give a bit of visual impact. Don't worry too much about placing 2 together. If you've learned traditional floral design, you will often get told not to arrange with pairs and not to arrange with individual flowers. But in this type of design, it's perfectly acceptable. And if I spin that around for you to see, I'm looking to have a fairly even distribution of the different textures and the different flowers. And instead of having the greenery at the top to give it that loose, more meadow, country sort of feel, we've got a much more solid structure which gives us a more formal design. I just want to add a very small amount of the silver asparagus fern because I think this gives it a really light texture. If you don't have any of these Christmas natural accessories like the lotus seed heads, then look at things that you might have in the garden that you can spray paint. It's always worth it in the summer months, preserving and drying some flowers to use in the winter. Teasels always look fantastic. Different types of seed heads will work really well. And even though I mentioned I wasn't going to put any foliage in at the top, I didn't want to put anything that was heavy and too overpowering. I just want that really light, wispy sort of feel. Now I think that's enough of the light wispy material. I don't want to make it too heavy. I've still got a few of the Christmas accessories. This time we've got some orange slices and they've had a spray paint as well. And I'm going to place these in so that you can see them from the side rather you can see the whole fruit rather than the fruit side on. And I've done groups of 2 and I've also done some single ones. But what I don't want to do is put it in flat so that you can't see the fruit. I'm going to tilt it forward on the wire so that that is covering a hole, and it's almost like an important material on its own rather than an accessory added in. Just going to keep turning until I can find another space. You can imagine how amazing this would be with all red supermarket flowers, or all whites and silvers if you like that colour combination. And then my final little material is some stars, and these are all picked up in supermarkets. Quite often I get them at the sales in January time, so that I've got things to use the following year. But I've put it so it's flat so that you can appreciate that whole colour and that shiny texture, rather than that traditional manner where we sort of put it in on its side. And on its side, I mean, so it's coming out to the arrangement on its side, not in that flat position there. So let's go all the way around to see where we can pop this one. I don't want it there because I've got that silver foliage, but I could do with it in this gap here, just alongside that nice big fancy rose. So what do we think? I think if you're a red and silver fan, you're going to really love this one. So this is generally what we would call a formal posy. It's much more structured. It's not as loose as an informal design. And it's a fairly good one to do if you're a beginner. You just want to try and create a roundy moundy sort of ball on top of the container. Now I'm absolutely loving that one, as always. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell if you want to be told every time I upload a new tutorial. Pop a question in the box below. Let me know what your thoughts are on floral foam and whether you've got on with using the aggro wool, because it's not the easiest of products to work with. It's just 2 designs to go for 2023, and I look forward to seeing you then. Bye for now.